Hello everyone, Ered Luin here, and welcome back to the Edain mod and the Overexplained videos, now going over the Dwarves of Ered Luin. Now, in the past, I did do something very similar to an Overexplained for all the Dwarves all at once. It went really well, people enjoyed it, but I want to go over every single Dwarf faction individually this time, go into more detail if possible, and see where everything comes out afterwards. So first let's see what's actually causing all that noise. It's a bunch of labourers that I've had from my lumber mill slowly dying. Okay, let's get back into what we were talking about. So firstly, the dwarves, their main thing is they have three sub-factions: Erebor, Iron Hills, and Ered Luin. Erebor is the more aggressively known faction, the Iron Hills is the more defensive faction, and Ered Luin doesn't really have a specific title, but I give it the title the utility faction. It's probably the Lothlorien for most of the factions. It's a bit more difficult getting into all of it, but once you do get into it, oh, it's so much fun. And you get the whole company of 13 dwarves of the Thorin Oakenshield quest to reclaim Erebor. Other than that, there are some things that remain the same throughout your every dwarf faction. All of your siege equipment remains the same, except for the catapult, but we'll go into that later. Your upgrades are all the same, nothing about that changes. Your buildings have the same abilities. And the only things that change in the barracks are obviously the 4 units you can recruit change, the heroes you can recruit change, the heroes from the Citadel change, and your special outpost changes. For your basic outpost, unlike other outposts, have these 2 extra plots. Used to be 3, but they have 2 extra plots you can put a tower, a hearth, or a heroic statue into. And that's the same for your camps and castles as well. And that is from the line of defense, which is something I always try to use because, you know, sometimes I like to build a hearth in one of these plots. I now no longer need to spend that because I count as having 9 plots in my base instead of just having the 7. So it makes use of 2 pretty distinct buildings or a defensive building. Defensive buildings are always good as well if you're getting harassed in the front of your base. But if not, build a hearth for healing. Heroic statues to get hero spam was what I used to use these for, but now they only give damage and armor. They removed the discount, even though it does say there's a discount on there. It's wrong. Other than that, the other main thing about the dwarves are the pony camp, but we'll be going into that later, and obviously the mine shaft. You can send 5 units through a mine shaft to another mine shaft in any place, from, say for example, a castle all the way up to a settlement here, or even the undermine power. But I'll go into a bit more detail on that when I get to talking about buildings. But first, we talk about units as we have in the past. The Ered Luin Guardians probably have, well, firstly, I like to see that. If you see me, file a bug report. I've seen that also on the sharpened axes, but that was only when I didn't have the upgrade. When I purchased the upgrade from the barracks, it removed it and replaced it with the sharpened axes text. And now it just says the upgrades have been already purchased. So if you see me file a bug report, is that on other things as well? Nope, not on the pikemen. On the unburnt? Nope. Okay, so that's just a weird thing that I've got on the Guardians. So, comparing these to the other Guardians of the Dwarves, I would say they are definitely more utility-based. Their ability, Dwarven Sprint, gives them 50% speed increase, and they already move faster than the ordinary Dwarves. Look at that speed at base. Speed with haste. We're approaching cavalry speed right now. With Dwarves. We dwarves are natural sprinters. Also, Guardians of every dwarf faction have a unique upgrade. These have the sharpened axes. It changes their animation to have a 2-weapon attack instead of a 1-handed attack, because they don't actually wield like shields. But the sharpened axes themselves, they give a triple damage bonus to these dwarves when they're attacking enemies from behind. So for those that don't know, there's a thing called flanking damage. So let's say, for example, this unit of pikemen was my enemy's pikemen, and I was about to attack them from behind with these guardians. Normally, they would deal double damage because they're basically hitting them where they're defenseless. basically like in real life, you attack someone from behind, it's going to hurt a lot more than if you attack them from the front, where they can anticipate it and potentially block it. But these sharpened axes do triple damage instead of the double damage. And that damage is obviously dependent on the actual damage of the units. So you give them forged blades, that's even more damage on top of the damage they're already dealing. That triple damage is basically a one-shot on any basic unit that cannot take this damage. And some people think that running away from the dwarves is a smart thing. And that's why Dwarven Sprint exists. So to remind them that you cannot escape from these dwarves. You are forced to fight them to the death. And that, I think, is another thing about these dwarves is you can't just run away from them like you can with the other dwarves. These dwarves you have to stand and fight against if you have a chance. And these dwarves know, if you're playing as these dwarves, you should know, do not let your enemies run away from you. If you can, force them to constantly fight you. Next up, we have the Ered Luin pikemen. Their abilities probably make them the best of the dwarf pikemen. The steadfastness. Whenever enemy cavalry or monsters crash into the phalanx, they are slowed for 50% by 50% for 30 seconds. Now, this also doesn't include the base slow that cavalry receive as they slowly decelerate from charging in. So you're basically forcing cavalry to stay in a fight where normally they would want to be hit and running, which is what cavalry is best at. You just stop cavalry from being able to do what cavalry does best. Really good unit. Your archers, you're actually the only dwarf faction that has two sets of archers. The Ered Luin archers have the skirmish formation, which gives them bonus attack and vision range. And what I mean by that is literally a dwarf unit that uses a bow and arrow. The other dwarves use axe throwers or crossbows. Not literally only two range units. Every dwarf faction has two range units. And you get fire arrows, heavy armor, and banner carriers. But yeah, the vision and attack range works really well with this expansion for your fortress. I'll go over it quickly. The Raven Lair gives bonus vision and attack range for all nearby allies. So that means you can get a total of, what, 45? Did I read that right? Yeah, 45 vision and attack range. So you can have range of BFME 2 vanilla Mirkwood archers, or even Guardians of Karas Galathon, when boosted with Galadriel. They'll probably have longer range than the Ered Luin archers, but it'll be very close. These dwarves are good. And they get heavy armor, which means they are tanky. Then we come to your elite dwarf unit, the Unburnt from Ered Luin, whose strengths are speed and just being infantry. Their ability charge attack, they gain speed and knock their opponents to the ground. And obviously it's not easy to show without actually summoning some troops, but it's basically the charge ability from vanilla for Guardians. You go in, you charge, but not only are you weakening your enemies, you're being able to keep chasing them afterwards as well with a bonus 50% speed. You're moving as fast as your Guardians, but instead of having to just click and activate it, you're targeting an enemy and going at even faster speeds to reach them in the first place because of the charge, which I really like. I think this used to also be an attack speed boost. I might be wrong on that, but I'm glad they got rid of that because it's already really powerful. And you can also feed the Unburnt to your pony camp to get your heroic unit. So we'll just wait for that to appear. While we're waiting for the Khazad-dûm vets to appear, let's talk about our siege units because we've got a lot of them. Technically, the battle wagons aren't siege, but also they technically are because they're single entities, and they come from the siege works. So firstly, the battle wagons. Every battle wagon for every dwarf faction has something unique about it. For Ered Luin is they have archers. So these are probably the best horse archers in the game because you don't even have to stop for them to be shooting. They will just shoot as long as they are in range. Probably one of the best cavalry units in the game if you use it right as well with those archers. They don't do a lot of damage, I'll admit, but they're good. They also have the oil barrel, which they've always had. Just give them a barrel. And this damage is dependent on its ability to deal damage against units. So if I was used against pikemen, it would do less damage. But if I was used against archers, it could probably one-shot archers. So it uses the exact same damage type of... I think that damage type is classified as cavalry, which is very simple to understand. But yeah, cavalry damage for the oil barrels. But then you also get a choice of 3 upgrades for the dwarves. The first one is the dwarf faction's unique, which is the bolt thrower, which is just a mini siege unit on a battle wagon. I love it. Then you get the banners, which give you damage and armor for nearby allies, and also gives you some phalanx, or a phalanx, to protect the thing. Don't know how much that actually does, but you know, it's cool. Probably better against heroes, I'd say. And then you get the dwarven ale, which heals nearby allies. Also, when a battle wagon reaches level 2, it self-heals. So if I was to quickly damage one of these battle wagons with a fireball to the face, by the time I'm back, oh yeah, it's already healing. As long as it's out of combat, it starts healing, and it's really good because that's 3,800 health. I'd say that's about 100 health a second. Really good. That might also be boosted by the fact there's dwarf ale nearby. I'm not sure. Anyway, to the veterans of Khazad-dûm we go. They can be sent to your dwarven forge. That's the word. Dwarven forge to be made to work to process mithril mail, which I've already done, and that means you can give your heroes mithril mail. For those that don't know, it costs 500, takes about 30 seconds, and then your heroes get a massive boost to their defenses, and also have a nice little design boost in the mithril mail. I think Thorin is the only one that doesn't get a natural change to his appearance, because he gets the change of appearance when he levels up anyway, when he becomes king. And then, instead of getting just a basic set like 2 axes or whatever, you get a choice of what weapons you want. You can equip an axe to do just standard damage and do bulk standard damage. You can equip a hammer to do bonus damage to buildings. You can equip a Morning Star to deal the version of Uruk damage, which basically means you do more damage to armored units. Or you get swords. You do bonus damage against heroes. I believe you get a version of hero damage to do damage to heroes. So let's just say I equip an axe. You can then equip a shield for more health. Your current health for a level 1 Khazad-dûm vet is only 1,750. So you give it about double health. Or you can equip another axe and do an extra 50 damage. I always prefer the shield, because now these guys... oh, okay, it doesn't show it actually has more health. It just... I think it gives it... I don't know, I can't remember. I'm sure it should give them more health, but I might be wrong on that. So yeah, Khazad-dûm vets, once you actually give them their upgrades, they get a choice of becoming immune to knockback and trampling, and slow any nearby attacking cavalry once you get to level 2. And at level 7, the Death Wish, which the Zealots of Rise of the Witch King Vanilla got. Bonus damage, reduction in armor. To be fair, you've got ways of increasing your armor by stupid amounts, so just a pure damage buff, really. Really good. Khazad-dûm vets, it's definitely worth getting them. Getting at least 1 for the mithril mail, and then maybe having another 3 just for those tanky troops. But honestly, comparing to like the Unburnt, who each have nearly as much health as a Khazad-dûm vet, but are twice as large, have a ability at level 1. Granted, you do need to buy all these upgrades, but you're basically exchanging one of these units for one of your elite troops. It's not like you're recruiting the elites from the heroic troops from your barracks. I think for Iron Hills, it's probably the best to have them. Ered Luin, I'm not too sure. Erebor, personally, for Erebor, get one of these and then don't get any more. But we'll go more into that when I actually play Erebor. Anyway, back to the siege, since I was distracted by the arriving of the Khazad-dûm vets. Your battle wagon, the battering ram is now not the Demolisher. What it used to be called is the Demolisher, now called the battering ram. It still has the same ability of deploying, makes it immobile, but then anything it's attacking is going to get destroyed, almost guaranteed. Then we have the Ered Luin catapult, which you might be thinking, that's not the Iron Hills catapult I know and love. Well, yeah, no, of course it's not the Iron Hills catapult. This is Ered Luin. We fire 1 big stone all on its own. And that's all we need. However, the other 2 dwarf factions also have varying versions of the catapult. Erebor has the standard Iron Hills catapult we used to know and love. But the Iron Hills version of the catapult fires 3 shots like the mighty catapult from days of old. And then lastly, we have the Earthshaker. Used to be a thing that was only in BFME 2 vanilla campaign. It was used as a giant earthquake effect. It's a mini earthquake effect. The ground hammer rams a steel head into the ground, which shakes the ground beneath enemy buildings or machines, whereby they suffer damage and take more damage from all sources for 9 seconds. Wolves instead take 60% more damage. Which, you know, do you really need to worry about dealing damage to walls? You hit with one of these, and then you hit like 5 more all at once. That's how you destroy buildings, by having have a bit of fun with it. Earth shakers. Next up on our units list are the Men of Lake Town, which personally, I think these Men of Lake Town aren't worth getting. Well, tell a lie. Swordsmen are worth getting because of their attacks. Hold at bay. Attacks at Lake Town Swordsmen slow enemy infantry by 50% for 10 seconds. That is significant slow. That is a massive slow. Just have 1 or 2 of these in your melee. And sure, they're not going to be as survivable as dwarves. But they will do a good job at making sure the dwarves do even better. I think these are meant to be a form of supplementary units that are just cheaper. The thing is, though, they're not cheaper. 200, 300, 300. And let's look here. 200, 300, 300. They're exactly the same price. The only difference between them are their numbers. And personally, in a game where AoE is actually quite prominent, you've got Lothlorien with arrow volleys, Gandalf for Gondor, and Eagles. The only time you don't want smaller entities are when you're going against a say for example, an archer faction. So Lothlorien sometimes, when they actually make archers. But other than that, I'd say Mordor is also another one you'd probably want larger entity numbers instead of just pure skill. Mainly because of the overkill you'd be doing. To be fair, yeah, that's a good thing. Against spam factions, you want to be using some of these. Not all of these. The Lake Town Pikemen used to be amazing. I used to praise these to the sun, and they were one of my favourites. Now they just have Porcupine Formation. They used to have a formation that would put them into a tight square, and they would be immune to being charged at, and have bonus armour. They would just... Any cavalry that met them, instead of dying to them, they would just stop in their tracks. And I thought that was amazing. I thought that was amazing utility. And then they got rid of it. I don't know why they got rid of it. It just makes me sad. And then you get the Lake Town Bowman, whose abilities is basically the same as vanilla all archers. And it's garbage. Sure, you can slow down enemies and make them even slower by bombarding them. But when you're constantly having to move around, because that's how the game flow works in this, you don't just sit around in one spot. Like, oh, look, we got this enemy unit's now in this position, let's fire. Oh, wait, no, they're now the way over here. We've got to move and then put them again here. But now I've got to run away to actually start shooting. It's so not worth it. I just don't like Bombard. It's not worth it. Honestly, the only units you should be getting from here are the Swordsmen. They're the cheapest, and they have the best ability. The rest of them are garbage. And the reason I haven't built Lake Town to the fullest yet, because I can't remember half of these, and I'm going to go over these one by one later. So that is all of our units, except for one. One that's just kind of hard on its own, the Dwarf Miners. Now, these miners have a unique thing. You can see the aura around them. Allows them to basically dig a tunnel once you've got something in their aura. So, what I mean by something in their aura, I mean building. But it seems like you can't build on a bridge, so I just messed that up. So, let's get the other miner in here. This is why I built two. I knew there was something was going to happen. So, anything that enters that circle of influence, once the circle of influence actually exists, right now it's taken out, but now it's back. So, we can see we can now dig a tunnel. And now we can attack this building from range. It's basically a glorified version of the catapult. That's slightly harder to notice when it's a single entity. And then has building level defenses, which is not good when you're trying to siege something. But let's look at the damage. Instantly dead. Now, that attack is currently on its way. What happens if I demolish the building while the attack is halfway through reaching its destination? the attack will still go off. So what you could do is dig the tunnel, let the attack flow, then dig out the tunnel and move out the way, and then just wait for just wait for whatever you're attacking to get destroyed. A good example of that would be. Can I actually make a? Let me try. I've actually never tried this before. I'm going to spawn a settlement over here. I'm going to build a mine shaft here, and then I'm going to see if I can, with this guy, because you can actually do this now, reverse convert, turn all objects in the area to be neutral hostile permanently. So this mine shaft, I should be able to turn it into a hostile. I'm only doing this because I want to see if this works. And I actually want to show how much damage it can actually do to something. And actually show how much hit points it has. So I personally never even look at this unit. The only way you get them is if you have the siege plans upgrade, and then you can get them from the barracks. It's a very weird entity. But anyway, I want to show it off, so I'm going to show it off. Reverse convert. It is no longer mine yet. It starts getting attacked. It starts getting attacked, but my towers are destroying it, so I need to destroy those towers quickly. Stop. This is for science. I must know the damage it deals. I didn't even see how much health it has. It's a level 3 mineshaft, though. How much health could it have? 4,196. So the attack is very, very slow. Keep that in mind. It is still very, very slow. But it is unavoidable. That is a lot of fucking damage. Jesus Christ. No, I'm not going to do a cast. Okay, that's enough testing for the miners. They do a lot of bloody damage. I'd say that is more damage than a catapult. Is less noticeable than a catapult. It's basically, what if Siege had stealth? That is basically the entirety of the of these miners. That is their entire existence. It's just Siege but stealth. I'm trying to think of a game you can compare it to, but I really can't think of any. Anyway, back to the rest of the video. Let's now talk about buildings. Our resource buildings are the mine shafts, as I've already mentioned before. You can put your heroes or units into this building, and then you can evacuate them at will. You can put up to 5 of them in, and then take 5 of them out at once, so you have to be constantly feeding them in and feeding them out. It's a great defensive technique. I used to use it all the time against things like Army of the Dead. You just put your dwarves into the mine shaft, get them back into your base, and they're safe. And I would always use that with undermine. You also get a decrease in cost of upgrades if you build mine shafts, which used to be the thing I would always build on the build plots, the settlements later in the game. I just build all mine shafts because I'd be always spending money on upgrades for my dwarves. Next up is the Dwarven Stonemasons. And no, this is not like the Stonemasons of Gondor. These stonemasons instead increase the hit points of all dwarven buildings by up to 30%. Now, I'm looking at this. It says 4,796 for this mine shaft, but that mine shaft only has, what, 4,100. So, I'm wondering if that's a thing that only affects base buildings and not just all buildings in general now. I'm actually wondering. So I'm going to remember these. 4196... and 4796. 600 health point difference. That's gone down to 4,400. And that one's gone down. Okay, so it is just that mine shafts in the base have more health. Okay. It's been discovered. Mythbusters, get it in. Then we have... once we upgrade the stonemasons to level 2 and level 3, at level 2 you can get the battle tower training, which gives these towers... the battle towers of a fortress, a castle, more damage. Not the little sentry towers here. These towers are different. Then you get the oil vents. You can press on these here and then pour boiling oil. It's the same as the boiling oil from vanilla for your what's it called? Fortress for BFME2 vanilla. It's just you pour it straight in front of you, you right where, you know, there's a choke point with a gate. So, you know, pretty good damage can be done with that. And then finally, the line of defense we've already talked about. You can get a hearth, you can get a tower, you can get a heroic statue. All great choices. Saves you from wasting them on your other build plots, and it basically means your camps and your camps are the best camps in the game because you have 8 plots instead of 6. And castles are you got equivalent castle to Gondor and Angmar instead of Rohan, Imladris, and I'm trying to think of another faction that has 7 plots. Stalling for time. I can't think. Anyway, next up on the list is your barracks. Unlike, well, Hall of Warriors, unlike other factions, all your infantry units come from one building. Dwarf Guardians, Pikemen, Archers, Unburnt, and of course the weird miners if you have the siege plans. You can also get your banner carriers from here once you have the elite equipment, the same with the Unburnt. Sharpened axes come from elite equipment as well. You've got 3 things that require an upgrade from your workshop. You can also recruit 3 heroes from here. You can recruit Botha, Balin, and Dwalin. All real champion heroes. We'll be talking about them soon. Next up is the siege works. You can recruit your battle wagons and battering rams at level 1. At level 2... Oh, no. Oh, wait. No. Is it level 2 and level 3 you can get them? No, you can get all of these from level 1. I'm forgetting. Level 2 and level 3 comes naturally from the tools. But yeah, you can then get battle wagon equipment. So that's how you get your upgraded battle wagons to have bolt throwers, banners, or kegs. You can also get the Ered Luin catapult, which fires the 1 stone we've talked about. You can research the flaming stone, so that does even more damage. And then the earth shakers, which, yeah, it's a fun thing to have. Is a earth shaker. It's a funny little guy. It's the same as the miners. They're funny little guys. You don't need them. You only get them from siege plans, but they're funny little guys. So why not get them? Next up is the Dwarven Forge itself. You can get heavy armor, forge blades, fire arrows, elite equipment for your infantry, and siege plans for the siege editions. You can also get the thing here, Procession of Mithril. Why was I struggling so hard with that? I feel like I should say Possession of Mithril. The veterans of Khazad-dûm are able to process the mithril they have found in the mines of Moria. Dwarven heroes may purchase mithril shirts, which is 500 each on every hero that is a dwarf or Bilbo. Bilbo is the only non-dwarf hero who can purchase mithril mail. Let that be known. And then you get your economy upgrades. But they specifically rename them to Dwarven Workers and Settlers Tools. Settlers Tools doesn't actually do anything different. But the Workers Tools, you get level 1 Workers Tools and level 2 Workers Tools. They upgrade your military buildings as well. So these are even more important for the Dwarves than the other factions. Because it's not just your economy you're upgrading, it's your military speed you're upgrading. Obviously you don't get any extra units from just doing these upgrades. You just get the extra recruit speed of up to 30% on both, which is really good. And then obviously you have your towers you can upgrade to have forge blades. That's just the lone miner from earlier. My brain was going on a bit of a tangent there. Next up on our settlements you can get mine shafts as well, as I've already mentioned. You're going to get lumber mills, and yes, they have been reverted as well. In fact, no, they've been made better. This used to be a thing that was bad, but then they made it good by giving it what... well, firstly, by making it so it doesn't count towards your supply routes, but because of, you know, deforestation, you're just using exploitation and deforestation. And it's basically the same as the Isengard lumber mills, which I've shown off in the past. You get a cost reduction to machines and structures for every lumber mill you have, up to 30%. I love it. I love making things cheaper for no reason, and buildings are my favourite thing to make cheaper. And obviously you can recruit lumber labourers from there. They cost 50 resources, 10 command points. And then lastly, for the settlements, you get the travel camp. I call it the pony camp because you get to make these little pack horse ponies. And this is where you send your Unburnt with the ponies to Khazad-dûm to gain the Khazad-dûm veterans. And you get a spawn of horses every, I think, 3 minutes? Yeah, every 3 minutes. And you can have a maximum of 3 of these horses ready to go out at once. Next up are the outposts. I've already talked about the difference in the outpost for the dwarves, that they get the 2 extra build plots. You can use tower, statue, or half. And I don't think I've missed any buildings here. Yeah, obviously you can get the statue, half, and tower in the main lineup. You should only get these before you get the line of defense. Afterwards, don't get them for anywhere. Even on an outpost, just get resources is better. Anyway, Lake Town has a lot of different upgrades, and it slowly levels up as time goes on, as does Dale, as I've already talked about in the What I Love About Dale video. Start with the housing area, which gives you a lot of extra buildings, which each generate 10 resources. The militia house, which allows you to recruit the bowmen, pikemen, and swordsmen of Lake Town. Again, my personal preference, get the swordsmen only. Their slowdown attacks are amazing. These other 2 units are just so vanilla, it's not worth getting. Especially with Ered Luin. Then you get the Smuggler's Den, which is where you get Bard and this stealth aura around you, the Lake Town area. You then get the Black Market, which summons fishmongers, generates more resources, and increases fishmonger resource gain by 10%. Not sure what it means by giving an increase to the fishmongers thing. It might be you might get more fishmongers later on. But that's just a new building, and then you can see if these other buildings generate more resources. They do generate more resources. Now they're all on 12 resources each. Then you have the Mayor's Lodge. Grants allies in the area more damage and armor. So you get a heroic statue on your outpost for free. Well, I say for free. For money. You get the Mayor's Lodge. And then you get to see him yourself. He's there. He's waving to the people. Willingly insulting them. Then you get the Bell Tower. Instead of a actual tower defending the Lake Town, you get a bell tower, which allows you to spawn troops faster. Oh no, fires arrows at enemies and unlocks alarm. Oh, so it is just an arrow tower as well. Alarm allows fishmongers to fire for 30 seconds. And then again, increases health and improves armor against melee attacks. Because you know, it's a defensive upgrade. I thought that was only a ring a bell thing. But yeah, and then there's different things depending on what you've already got. So let's have a look at the weapon stashes. Alarm temporarily deactivates resources. The generation of all fishmongers but greatly increases recruitment speed. So you want to build this only if you want to spam out these troops. Otherwise, don't get this, because if you're ringing the bell to get the natural defenses of the base, you're then missing out on the actual resources generated from the area. But you know, let's get that anyway because it's more health as well. And now alarm will give you fast recruitment for your troops, like you're using Call the Horde. And then lastly, the unassuming docks spawns a boat with barrels on it, granting access to the tunnel system. Don't ask why the tunnel system can be accessed by a boat that has no water. Don't question it. This is the game we're playing. And then once you've got all of that, you get the Smuggler's Paradise. Bard benefits from the growing reach of his home. He gains experience and armor and heals rapidly near Lake Town. So Bard kind of acts like a home defender when you get the Smuggler's Paradise. But other than that, he's sort of really good. But look at the resources it's generating. Look at all those 12s constantly spawning. It's insane. I think it's 12 per upgrade. So you've got a total of 9 upgrades? 8 upgrades. But then a few... I don't know. It seems like every person is giving off resources instead of the buildings, which I really like. And I've never tried this before, but we're in productivity quickly. They removed it. You know what? Good, because that would have been ridiculous. But yeah, Lake Town, really love what they've done with Lake Town. Just don't like what they've done with the units. This unit used to be really fun. This unit never really did much, because you already had dwarf archers in this faction. Anyway, that is all of the buildings. Technically, not all of them, but we'll go over the power summons when we get to actually summoning the powers. Next up are the heroes. We have, firstly, Bilbo Baggins, one of the only non-dwarves of the dwarf factions. He's like every normal hobbit. He can choose between swinging his sword and throwing stones. He can conceal himself, like Merry and Pippin can. He then gets, I'm going on an adventure. For 10 seconds does more damage and moves faster. So, you know, wants to run away or wants to get into the fight, use this ability. And then you get Treasures of the Master Thief, which is probably one of my favourite abilities on a scout hero. Because I'm not sure if this is still a thing, so I've noticed the AI ignore it more. But AI are greedy as fuck. They see these treasure chests and they'll be like, oh, I've got to get that treasure, I've got to get that treasure. They will rush towards a treasure chest with reckless abandon. Meaning, if I had an entire army between them and these treasure chests, but they see the treasure chests, they will stop fighting, they will run towards the treasure, and they will die for the treasure. I do not know if this is still a thing. I just remember it being a thing for such a long time. I abused the hell out of it. I think the Edain team caught on and said, you know what, you can't have this anymore. And then obviously you can also get the Mithril Mail. Then we have Botha, probably one of my favourite of the dwarf heroes in general. He can hurl his first ability is hurling a pickaxe. Let's get spawn an enemy quickly so I can show you what I mean by him hurling his pickaxe. Labourers, where are you? Labourers. Okay, I'm going to make a labourer quickly, and I'm going to turn him into an enemy and have Botha throw the pickaxe at him. I'm have Botha throw the pickaxe at him.
And then we went.
Because this ability is unique in that it's not just something that stays still, but it's not something you just use and then you get it back after a short amount of time. It's something that you use, and then you have the choice of... Oh. Bard?
No one enters Lake Town but by leave of the master.
Okay. Let's just talk about it. Let's find some goblins to kill. So, he can hurl his pickaxe. Botha can collect his pickaxe from the area he threw it, and immediately reuse the ability, or wait 60 seconds for the pickaxe to be returned to him. The ability cannot be used while the pickaxe is on the ground. So, to put that simply, you throw it. It does big damage and AoE damage in the area that it hits. You then see it on the ground, and then you can pick it up. If you pick it up, you can use the ability again immediately, doing even more AoE damage and cascading the effect over and over and over again.
Take this to the lads.
But if you don't get it, you've got to wait 60 seconds before you can use it again. So use it as an escape tool, use it as an entrance into damage tool. This ability can kill Galathrim. So let that just be an indicator as to how powerful this ability is. Then you get to summon Biffa and Bomber. Biffa just is a bodyguard to Bomber, who is a small healing well around him. He's just cooking on his pot. He don't fight. Then you get Tremor. Both are orders some dwarves to undermine the target area. Enemies in the target area will be thrown down and have their speed reduced by half for 15 seconds. So it's a AoE, pretty short range AoE from Botha's position. But anything that gets hit by that is going to be basically the same as it being hit by a Lake Town soldier. They're not going anywhere. They are forced to fight you. The Dwarves of Ered Luin, their main thing is forcing a fight and keeping that fight forced. That is their main thing. And then finally, Chainquake. Botha triggers an earthquake, which moves to the selected enemy building and deals heavy damage. Enemy units and structures in the path of the earthquake take minor damage and units are knocked to the ground. So again, another knockdown effect, keeping enemies in a fight, but also doing big damage to a building to constantly move around and do more damage to buildings. If you use this in a clustered fortress, say for example, Botha was here, and he targeted this building here, the barracks would take damage. Any units in between here would take damage and get knocked down. So it'd be easier to just clean them up and just do massive damage. Botha is so underrated. He costs only 1700 and has some of the best abilities of the dwarves if you know how to use them. They are very tricky to use if you do not like having to, one, target an enemy and then collect wherever the pickaxe was thrown at. The slowdown is really easy to use. This is just click it and use it. And this doesn't need to be used with the technique. You can just use it to target a building and destroy it, basically. Then we come to Balin, the support hero for the faction. He has a rune shield, which he can target any hero with, or any dwarf hero, from Ered Luin in particular. Which means, I think Bilbo, again, Bilbo is the only one who counts as also being a dwarf hero. Let's just double check that right now. So yeah, Bilbo can be given the rune shield, but Bard cannot be given the rune shield. So if you can get Mithril Mail, you can get you can get Balin's rune shield, which gives them armor and speed as long as the rune is in effect. And attacks against protected heroes weaken and destroy the rune shield. So I could just put rune shields on everyone, and they shouldn't fade unless they're dealt damage. But it looks like they've changed that, so you can only see one visible rune shield. Cannot confirm if that means Dwarven actually has the rune shield. I don't think he does. No. To me, if you compare that to foreign speed, yeah, no, he does. That definitely does not have the rune shield. Only one hero can have the rune shield at a time. Then you have Generosity of the Veteran. Nearby allied heroes are inspired, gain damage and experience for 10 seconds as long as Balin is on the battlefield. So just have him nearby, and he's got heroic statue effects for heroes, giving them more damage and experience to get them closer to level 10, and all these more juicy upgrades. Then you get Dori, Nori, and Ori. You can choose a hero to give, basically lend these 3 dwarves to be bodyguards to one dwarf hero. Then you get Heroic Blow. Balin inflicts heavy damage on an enemy, and nearby enemies flee in terror. And nearby ally heroes gain twice the effect of Generosity of the Veteran. So if Balin gets to level 10 first, he's going to be giving all your other dwarf heroes that are getting the buff from Generosity of the Veteran even more bonuses. And it says specifically allied heroes, not allied dwarf heroes. I actually had to go back and read that. So you can use this in a hero stack with friends. Get like an Aragorn, a Gandalf, get them leveled up really fast too, as if Balin gets to level 7 quick enough, which I really like. Next up is Dwalin, who starts off with a choice of using Grasper and Keeper, his twin axes, to do AoE damage, or do a single heavier attack with his hammer. I prefer Grasper and Keeper personally because the AoE damage is... I've saved AoE damage. I don't actually know if it is anymore. I just know that apparently the axes hit too close. Oh no, it does have a mini AoE. Hits too close by enemies and can be swung faster. While the Warhammer has a better ability in the end. Then you got Powerful Blow. With a Mighty Strike, Dwalin blows his enemies out of his way. Yep, I had to finish that before I stopped. I nearly made myself laugh by saying that. But yeah, he hits really hard. It's Bofur's ability, he'll pickaxe, but in melee range. You can then summon Oin and Gloin, who are very similar to Bifur from Bofur, who is they just attack whatever's nearby. And then you get the choice of Wrath of the Dwarves. Dwalin goes on a frenzy and gains movement speed, damage, and knockback resist. And for the duration of this ability, his health cannot be reduced to 0. So in a ride or die situation, use this. But if you're just getting Dwalin into the fight, use Earth Hammer. Quickly switch to your hammer, go Earth Hammer, knock all the enemies on the ground, and see what happens. They will die very quickly if they're surrounded by your fellow dwarves. Next up is Thorin. I'm going to go straight towards the heroes he summons, Feely and Keely. They're the only heroes of the Ered Luin dwarves that are permanent summons. And they get bonus damage Thorin, Keely, and allied archers gain 10% armor if Feely is nearby. Keely has the exact same effect. Archers? Why archers? That seems weird. Anyway, Feely and Keely kind of are a single hero in the form of 2 heroes. Feely can switch between his sword and bow at will. Keely has a ranged attack in his knife throw, which slows an enemy that it hits. Feely can mark an enemy hero, doing a little bit of damage, but then Keely's headshot ability does bonus damage to whoever has been marked. And then they both have the Travelling Fair, which heals themselves, their respective brother, and their uncle Thorin for 1,000 hit points each. And to note, if Feely and Keely were to mysteriously expire, you can get them back immediately just by using the power. And they will always be at the level that Thorin is at. So if, for example, these 2 were level 10 when they died, or Thorin was only level 1, they will come back at level 1. So keep that in mind. Anyway, back to actual Thorin here. We have the ability King on the Mountain. Before he reaches level 10, it's actually called King in Exile, but does basically the same thing. Friendly units in a large radius gain resources from fallen enemies. Activate the ability to briefly impart all friendly units on the map 30% speed. It does have a reduced range before you get Thorin to level 10. Then you have Oakenshield. Thorin and nearby allied units are rendered invulnerable for 10 seconds. Before he reaches level 10, it's only himself, and I may be getting this wrong, but I think maybe heroes as well. I might be wrong on that. I'm probably wrong on that. But yeah, he can just make everyone invulnerable around him for 10 seconds. And then with the ring, it's then the whole map is invulnerable. All his units on the map are invulnerable. And you have the gleam of the Arkenstone. The sight of the Arkenstone kindles the hope in the hearts of Thorin's dwarves and inspires fear in the hearts of his adversaries. Nearby enemies are temporarily stunned, or allied units temporarily gain damage. Now, a thing to note. Barlin's ability says flee, which means they're running away. Your guardians are really good at chasing down fleeing enemies. Thorin's ability to stun them is technically better because it's just sitting them in place. You can move around wherever you want and then attack them with triple damage from the sharpened axes, for example. But also just the pure damage boost is amazing. And then when Thorin has the One Ring, a few things change. He gets the Fires of Erle's Forge. His King on the Mountain ability becomes a much heavier scavenger, but he also makes it so all your resource buildings generate next to no resources. In fact, let's just show it off right now. Here's the One Ring, take it.
They dreamt of the day.
Here's a way of showing it off. Yeah, the ring feeds Thorin's greed. All allied resource buildings produce less resources. So if you're doing this with friends, don't give Thorin the One Ring. You've been warned. And then you no longer can give a speed boost to the map. You instead just get the Immortal, following and all friendly units on the map are invulnerable for 30 seconds. So triple the duration of the invulnerability. And you also get Durin's Forge. And Gleam of the Arc is exactly the same. So that's all that really changes. You also do get splash damage when you level up. Let's have a look at Lake Town now. They are unaffected. Thorin says, I'm taxing everyone more. But you know what? Lake Town says, no, you're not taxing us. So, you know, that's cool. Final hero, Bard the Bowman. He can summon his little thrush, his scout in the air. You get Krebine. It's just a single bird that's even smaller and even harder to see. I can't even see it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. It just keeps circling around when it's not moving. And for 60 seconds, Bard's thrush circles around Bard and scouts the area. The thrush increases the range of nearby Lake Town archers by 25%. Okay, that's a reason to have Lake Town archers then. Give them increased range. Oh, wait, hold on a second.
Stay alert now.
Bonus range. I'm sorry. These guys are not even worth thinking twice about. Let's be real. Bard can switch between having a short bow and a long bow. Short bow, shorter range but faster attack speed. Long bow, longer range but shorter attack speed. Pretty simple concept. Really like the concept though. You then get Girion's Heir. Bard is the heir of Girion and inspires nearby men with his heroism. Nearby men of Lake Town gain double experience and damage in a medium range. Can be toggled to have a longer range at cost of experience gain. So, you know, just give it larger range. Forget the experience gain. You don't need experience gain for these guys. Then you get Smuggler. Bard is able to hide allies and smuggle them behind enemy lines. It's Haldir's ability, but at level 7. And then finally got the Black Arrow, which is pretty much the Hill Pickaxe ability, but at level 10. Bard fires his Black Arrow at the target, deals massive damage, and triple that damage to monsters and dragons. And in fact, there are dragons on this map. I'm going to test the damage. It better one-shot this dragon, or I'm going to be very, very upset. It better one-shot this dragon, or I'm going to be very, very upset. Come on. I want to see it. I want to see the one-shot. There's a dragon. Good.
It's safe. Don't let anyone find it.
And, oh yeah, whenever you use the Black Arrow, you can pick it back up from where it was. That's why I said it's similar to Hill Pickaxe. Bob must retrieve it off the ground where it was to use it again. Oh, but it doesn't even have a thing. You have to pick it up. That's why it's glistening. You have to pick it up or you can't use it again. Wow, that is garbage to think about. In fact, let's see if I can get around that. Firstly, using Restoration does not give it back. I kill Bard. And then get him back. Does it give it back? While Bard is being revived and we figure out the answer to this, let's start talking through the powers. We've got Kark's Ravens. Control the Ravens and send them to an owned structure. The structure is given a bonus to armor and vision range. I love this power. I always will pick this power first thing in the game. Because it just gives you armor for the building, vision range around the building, so you know you have vision, but also weakens enemies that try to attack the building or anything around the building. Next up is the Rallying Call. I will say this is really fun. Can't target the summon citadel to echo the call. I'm going to actually wait to see what that's like, because I've never done that before. Lone Tower. Same as in Vanilla BFME 2. It summons a tower, but it can also be manned by anything. Any one unit can man the Lone Tower. Undermine. Same as Vanilla, except it doesn't knock back enemies or allies when it is spawned. So, you know, can't destroy siege with this, which I do miss, but it makes sense. It's a level 2 power. It doesn't need to have some crazy nonsense attached to it. Next up, you have the Weapon Art of the Dwarves. Dwarven units with heavy armor and forged blades, or fire arrows, depending on which one you can gain, gain armor and damage, and the forged researchers upgrades 15% faster. I've never actually tested it to the point where I've actually got these not already upgraded. But if anyone can confirm if this works on the tools as well, I'd be very appreciative. I do know for a fact it decreases the research time for these. Bard, you still cannot use the black arrow. You need to reclaim the black arrow to use the black arrow again. Doesn't matter if he dies, if time expires, you have to pick it up if you want to use it again. Very unfortunate, really. What's next? Oh yes, the runes. The 4 runes. You have a single... Oh, didn't want to press that. You get a single rune you have to pay 1 power point for, and then you spend another 1 power point each for each of these runes. There's only one of a power in the game that's like this, and that's for Isengard, which I'll be doing next. You have the Rune of Inviolability. The designated building has 50% armor. The Rune of Inspiration activate another heroic statue effect, giving 50% damage and armor to all allies in the vicinity, even if they leave the radius. As long as they're there for 60 seconds, it's there. The Rune of Power. The designated building will be repaired every second by 100% by 100 resources. Then finally, the Rune of Productivity. If it is a military building, the building will train units 30% faster. That means this building now trains units 60% faster. Look at that recruit speed. That is insane. Even Erister on the barracks does not recruit troops that fast. Only by 10%, you know. Yeah, that's crazy speed. Or 30% more resources on a resource building, which honestly, right now, because I've given the Thorin the Ring, not a lot. Next up, Gandalf the Grey summons the Grey Pilgrim to the battlefield, who causes fear when approaching, but then after a few seconds can then use his free abilities. Here's Wizard Blast, which is a firework-looking Wizard Blast. He can throw pine cones, which burns enemies, and he constantly throws them unless you tell him not to. And on a certain custom map, you can... there's a version of Gandalf that throws literally hundreds of these pine cones all at once. It's hilarious. Then you get Beorn, summons 4 Beornings. Personally, this power is better than having to actually use Beornings in Lothlorien. I'm not going to joke about that. Used to be a level 2 power. You'd just get Beorn. Then they moved it down. Actually, no. It starts off as a tier 4 power. You would get Beornings and Beorn. I think then they moved it up to tier 2 for a bit. And it was just Beorn. And then they moved it back down and brought back the Beornings. And yes, they can also turn into bears. Then you get the Summon Citadel. And unlike the other 2 summons, this actually has a little flavor change. You can make the Ered Luin Guardians, Pikemen, Archers, and Unburnt from this building. And also the Echo Call. When the Citadel is targeted by the Dwarf Rallying Call, it will echo it, buffing troops around it in a very large area. Let's have a visual effect. Oh, just have a guy with a drum, not a drum. The horn literally. Oh, there's an effect! Oh, I love it! Oh, actually kept it going. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's such a small change, but actually, that's actually really nice. I like that. That is really nice. And then you can make towers, halls to keep your units safe and heal them, or catapults. So still all around really good power. Next up we have Earthquake. Let's destroy that Drake lair. So, normal Earthquake. Congratulations, you destroyed the building. However, this is not the end. For you get 2 aftershocks. I can't see.
We must rise up.
I think we missed Aftershock 1, but Aftershock 2 should be going off in a second. Yep, there's Aftershock 2. You can hear the sound, just can't see the effects, because there's no buildings to destroy. But if there's any buildings left to destroy, you would see the Aftershocks as well. And then finally, final stand, your middle tier power. Allied units in the target area gain 300% armor. Are immune to knockback effects and slow cavalry down twice as much for 30 seconds. Which means any cavalry that touches this Ered Luin pikeman is not moving again for the rest of its life, because its life has just ended. It is stuck. And you can yep. Love that power. It's very obvious when it's being used. If it's being used against you, just walk away. There's no point fighting anymore, because they're not going to die unless there's only like 1 or 2 units with that aura around them. It's just not worth fighting them. It's better to just wait for them to expire, but wait for the power to expire and then fight them. But 30 seconds is such a long time. There is no way anyone can fight that for 30 seconds and hope to live. And that is everything for the Dwarves of Ered Luin. I did go over all the powers, even though I probably shouldn't have. I'll go over them very briefly in the other 2 Overexplain videos. Not in as much detail as I have this one. But yeah, that's everything for the Ered Luin Dwarves. Definitely the hardest to learn out of all 3 Dwarves. But that's not saying much. They're still much easier to learn than, say, Lothlorien. And they are a ton of fun once you get to it all. So, we're now at the end. Let's summon the company of 13 dwarves.
There's hundreds
Trying to
of
do
them.
what? To be killed?
They're all here.
For my investment.
13 dwarves ready to reclaim Erebor, which might be the next dwarf faction I play as. You never know. It's going to be a while though. I've got a few factions in mind I want to play first. First off, it's going to be Isengard. So I hope you've all enjoyed this video. I hope you've all learned something new about the dwarves if you didn't already know everything. Honestly, dwarves in general just are really fun. Give them a good shot. They are you will have a fun time no matter which sub-faction you play. But if you learn this faction, if you learn the Dwarves of Ered Luin, you'll find them the most fun. They are my favourite dwarf faction for a reason. Anyway, see ya.